Hello everyone and welcome back to DeInfluenced. I'm Sasha, and here my goal is to get you guys to think critically about where you're currently spending your social media currency by digging deep into influencer culture, calling them out, and holding them accountable for their crappy behaviors. Because it's not just about drama, it's about the dangerous behaviors that can have real world impacts on their family, but also on their audience. Today, I got a Drue video for you guys. We're covering the Bashams again because recently Drue has decided that her daughter is able to start solid foods, and I highly disagree. But parents, and it's their choice, all the things, right? Right before Christmas, Drue decided to introduce her baby to solid foods, trying to spew that she's ready and everything, and she's not, and she's way too young, and research over the years has shown us just this. However, people in her comment section are supporting her and encouraging her in this decision. And I understand that introducing solids is a huge milestone that many parents get very excited about, but we have to keep in mind safety measures as well as preparedness of the infant. And the fact that she did this even before her baby turned officially 4 months, and has sparked up a conversation that I think we need to have. We got a lot to cover, so let's go, guys. So why is this such a big deal? When infants are born, they're born with basically zero bacteria in their system. Everything that was given to them was carefully filtered through multi-step processes before it even got to the baby. So they are born from a sterile environment into our disgusting bacteria-filled world with zero good bacteria or antibodies or anything to combat illnesses or to digest food. They're actually born without any lining in their gut. That means that bigger proteins that aren't supposed to pass through the gut lining, and also bacteria, can pass through and enter their blood system very easily and cause infection. That's why it's dangerous to introduce food too early, despite if your child is showing signs of readiness. And something that we need to keep in mind and bring back is food before 1 is mostly just for fun. It is not completely just for fun, because at a certain point they do need to supplement certain nutrients, but for the most part they get the bulk of their nutrition and hydration from breast milk or formula. And introducing solids too early can actually lead to nutrition imbalances, because they will take the solid food and then not be hungry for their milk, and then not get the nutrition that they need or the calories that they need on the daily. So while introducing food at about the 6-month mark is extremely important for proper oral development and allowing the gut to fully develop, it's really important not to start too early and not to rush things when it comes to infants. Occupational therapist Catherine Stevens says that solid foods require a different set of skills and muscles than the breast/bottle use. Learning to manage foods starts as a reflex but becomes a learned skill through practice and exposure. By delaying the introduction of solids, a biological window for learning to eat is missed, and it's much harder for the child to learn to chew and swallow later. I decided to include that because I think it's important to state that delaying introducing solids for whatever other reasons, usually it's parental fear of choking, isn't good either. But doing it too early can be just as detrimental as delaying it. There's just different consequences that come along with that. I found an excellent article that I want to pull up now and read with you guys, because it goes through just why it's harmful to introduce foods too early. The general consensus around this is that you can start introducing foods from 4 to 6 months. The American Pediatric Association and a couple other big organizations say that you should really wait until the 6-month mark, because that's when the gut is best equipped to handle digesting solids safely. Why wait until 6 months to start solids? A common question we get from moms with infants less than 6 months in our breastfeeding centers is, can I start my baby on solids now? Parents are often told it's time to give solids from grandparents and relatives or friends even who started their babies on solids at an earlier age. However, the latest recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the WHO, and many other organizations say that babies should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months of life, not the first 4 to 6 months. This also includes babies who receive some formula. We list the reasons below why. Baby's digestive system is not mature enough for solids. Until about 4 to 6 months, your baby's digestive system has what is called an open gut. This means there are spaces between the cells of the small intestine, which allows proteins and pathogens to pass into the bloodstream. This allows beneficial antibodies from breast milk to pass into the bloodstream, but it also means that proteins and pathogens from solid foods can also pass through. This can make your baby more susceptible to allergies and illnesses. The proteins and antibodies from breast milk coats and fits into those openings and gives your baby a passive immunity to prevent illness and allergic reactions before the gut closes. At age 6 months, your baby can start producing these antibodies on his or her own, and the gut has closed by this time. Exclusive breastfeeding gives the most benefits for immunity. That is what it says it is. Again, they covered it. Passive immunity through mom. So that's a good reason to breastfeed. Lowers the risk of obesity for babies. Studies have shown that introducing your baby to solids too soon is linked to a higher risk of obesity and diabetes and an increase in body fat when they become adolescents and adults. More protection from iron deficiencies. Exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months may reduce your baby's risk of anemia. Giving your baby iron-fortified food may reduce the efficiency of your baby's iron absorption. A study showed that babies who were exclusively breastfed for 7 months had higher hemoglobin levels than babies who started solids earlier than 7 months. And that's 7 months. Maintaining a good milk supply as you introduce solids, if they start leaning more towards that, your supply is naturally going to go down. It's supply and demand. Babies under 6 months don't need the extra calories from solids. At this age, solids tend to replace breast milk in your baby's diet. This means your baby will take in less breast milk, which will lower your milk production. Babies who take in a lot of solids will tend to wean prematurely. So here's the problem with her being an influencer. Societal pressures often put parents under a microscope. I find a lot of the times that societal pressures, especially social media pressures, tend to encourage rushing of milestones. And there's that comparison of my baby's not doing that yet, so there must be something wrong. And if we think about the fact that influencers only share the highlight reel, they're not showing you all the times that the baby didn't do the thing or whatever the case may be. So this comparison game, it often doesn't make sense. But this kind of rushing through milestones and through life is really detrimental for the infant and also for the parents. And if influencers are doing this for their audience, it's a mental toll on the babies, being pressured to do things that they might not be developmentally ready for yet. And then if you think about the mental toll that can have on the audience of the influencer who's consuming this content, comparing their baby to this baby who's eating solids at 4 months, who's thriving, who's doing so well, who's all these things, meeting all her milestones early, and it really becomes a toxic place to be, as opposed to just letting things happen naturally as they occur. And also, this can quickly lead to people following suit, thinking that, hey, my baby's the same age as this baby, they must be ready for solids as well, right? And with the research showing us that waiting until 6 months of age is better for the baby's overall gut health, because of the potential long-term consequences, all these people blindly following this influencer's advice and following suit can potentially do damage to their own baby's gut and gut health. And it's like, just stop. just slow down. Just enjoy the moment for 5 minutes, please. If you take Drue as a prime example, she put up her Christmas tree in October.
That's why it looks like Hobby Lobby threw up in my house. Because if I can't have it on the outside, girl, I'm gonna have it on the inside whenever it's 160 degrees again. Seriously, always decorate for Christmas early. I usually wait until the day after Halloween, but this year I just felt the vibes and I needed a new tree anyways, so it kind of like kick-started that. And I'm also a firm believer in do what makes you happy and do what you love, and I love Christmas. I love all things fun. And I kind of thought the reason maybe why I like it is because I don't really have much decorations, like my regular decoration. Every year when Christmas comes around, I'm like, okay, when I put my Christmas decor up, I'm gonna decorate. I'm gonna have like all the decorations, and I never really do. Maybe it's because I'm not a neutral girly, but my house is pretty neutral. And I'm not a beige mama, okay? I love me some color. Especially the most whitest white iced coffee ever. That is my favorite color. The most creamiest white coffee. You give it to me now. And someone tell me why in the heat of the summer I make hot coffee, but then it's cold outside and I'm drinking iced coffee again? Like, what is wrong with me?
And then what? Well, we all called it. The day after Christmas, she's tearing it down because she's sick and tired of it. That's the mental mind fuck that comes with rushing through everything, that comes with this pressure to always be the next thing, this pressure for content. That's such a sad life to live when you're so focused on content that you can't even enjoy Christmas because you need to put up your Christmas tree, so you're the first one to put it up so that you have content, or you need to feed your baby solids shy of 4 months of age because you need content. That's not okay. And it's a really toxic, sad place that social media has come to. Us as a general society, we're so rushed, we're so busy. And I'm not really one to talk because I do have toxic productivity, to be honest. It's a part of my ADHD. So I'm not really one to talk about the whole slow down and enjoy life. But seeing stuff like this on social media and consuming it on social media is perpetuating that go, rush through life type attitude. For them, it's all about the content. But for us consuming it, we perceive the content in a different light based on how they present it to us, and why you can start to feel like your baby's falling behind, and they're not. They're just developing at their own pace, and this girl is actually potentially damaging her baby's gut by giving food too early. Christmas is one thing, whatever. You want to celebrate Christmas in October and then be done with it by the time Christmas gets here, fine. You do you, boo-boo. But rushing through babies' milestones can lead parents to believe that their baby's not progressing the way that they should be progressing. And that's problems a lot of people had with the leap years, I think is what it's called. It put babies in this box, and a lot of people were like, oh, my baby's not doing that. But even for eating, if we take the 4 to 6 month mark, even though it isn't, it's 6 months, you should start introducing your baby to solids. Just because they're physically ready doesn't mean that their gut is ready to handle it. And it comes back to, instead of enjoying your baby's growth and development and being there present with them, you're rushing through all of it and wanting that next phase and longing for that next phase. With Drue being an influencer, that makes it all that much more nuanced because, again, it comes down to the content. She needs content, so she's rushing her baby to eat solids. There's literally no reason that she had to give her baby food unless it's rage bait. And if that's the case, if Drue's going down the rage bait path, knowing that this would stir up controversy because her page is dying and fizzling, so she needs engagement, that's not okay. Regardless of what the general public might think, influencers have a lot of influence over people, especially if people have developed any type of bond or strong parasocial relationship with that influencer. That influence increases tenfold. And in her comment section, with her and everyone else dismissing actual constructive criticism or concerns for her child's health and well-being, she's just perpetuating these harmful practices as an influencer, and that's not okay. Again, influencers have a responsibility to be responsible with their influence. And all this comes back to calling you out, and accountability is not bullying. It's not trolling. Calling someone out, like an influencer, for being irresponsible and making irresponsible decisions does not make the person who called them out a Karen. It doesn't mean that people are overreacting. And even though we are totally attacking your parenting choice because it's directly affecting your kid, maybe you should take some advice and do some research as to why so many Karens are calling you out. Because it's not just one person. People are expressing actual genuine concern for your daughter's long-term gut health. The consequences aren't right now. They're not tomorrow, but these influencers can't see 5 minutes into the future. And then on top of that, you have all these anecdotal, I did it with my kid and my kid's perfectly fine, who are just encouraging this kind of behavior, who are influencing her to continue this. It's not like people are just saying, oh, don't do, or whatever. This is all science-based, evidence-based, and backed up over years. The recommended age to start solids has been 6 months since 1990. It's not new information. It hasn't changed. And that is based on adults now who are 30, in their late 20s, who are having major gut issues. We're seeing those long-term consequences of people giving formula in bottles. Or sorry, not formula, for having cereal in a bottle. Just because your baby didn't aspirate and die doesn't mean that others didn't. And that's why the recommendations are there. It's an echo chamber that she's created. Something I didn't know is this whole thing is called survivor's bias. Oh, I did this and everything's fine, or I did this with my kids and everything's fine, doesn't take away the fact that there is still a huge risk doing it, right? Just because your baby's fine doesn't mean her baby's going to be fine. And that type of narrative needs to stop. It has to stop. It is so incredibly dangerous because it's not allowing people to grow and learn as human beings. We do the best we can until we know better, and then we do better. That's what's expected of us. That's called growth and maturity. But no, you're stuck in this, oh, I did it and I'm perfectly fine and blah, 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 it's my kid, so yada, yada, yada. I'm sure all these women who are, I gave my baby solids before 4 months, aren't driving their grandkids around without car seats because it's not safe. Just because you got in a car without a seatbelt and didn't get in a car accident and die doesn't mean that it was safe to do that. We put on seatbelts to minimize injury, to minimize the risk. It's the same thing. It might seem dramatic, but it's not. And with gut health being so incredibly important for not only physical health, like absorption and malnutrition and all that stuff, but also mental health. There's so many studies now that directly linked gut health to mental health, anxiety, depression, even ADHD. It's all directly linked back to your gut. So if your gut's off, everything's off because your gut is its own microbiome of bacteria and stuff. But this survivor bias, this I did this with my kid and they're fine, needs to come to an end. That type of advice is so incredibly harmful because you don't know her baby. You know your baby, but all babies are different. And just because yours survived doesn't mean, or unscathed, I shouldn't say survived because that's a little bit much, but survived unscathed, has no long-term issues, doesn't take away the risk that giving a kid solids too early can have. It increases the risk of obesity, of type 2 diabetes, of allergies and digestive disorders later in life by feeding the kids too early. Why? Because their gut isn't developed. It's not made to handle solid foods. So this isn't about you versus me. It's about minimizing the risks. And this is such an easy thing to just, not do. Such an easy risk to eliminate. Just because someone avoided immediate visible harm doesn't mean that there were no long-term consequences. I'm sure that all these people in the comment section going, I did this with my kid and they're healthy and I'm sure most of them have health issues related to their gut. We're all messed up. Why? Because most of us, not really in the 90s anymore, but definitely in the 80s, got pablum, in their bottle, cereal in their bottle. It doesn't mean that because we're functioning as normal human beings that we're not messed up because of it. Every baby is different. All babies are different. That's why we have research and science-based evidence that tells us these guidelines, not anecdotal evidence of my kid's fine, so, yours will be fine. That it doesn't work that way. It's not cut and dry. And it's a very dangerous narrative to continue to perpetuate. And it's literally there in your face saying, this is dangerous to do. This has potential long-term consequences. And she doesn't need it, right? So now we have to focus on why. Why are you giving your child food before she even hits her 4-month mark? Who cares if it's a day? It was still before. Why? Who's it for? Because it's not for her. It's not for her nutritional needs. It's not even for proper oral development because at 6 months, they can start to do that. So why? And medical guidelines are there not for the individual or for the person with the anecdotal, my baby survived. It's not. It's to protect as many children as possible. And science is constantly evolving. It's constantly growing and changing, and they're constantly learning. It goes back to we do the best we can until we know better than we do better. Same thing with safe sleeping practices. It was super common in the 80s and 90s to put your baby belly to sleep. I'm pretty sure I went belly to sleep. Does that mean that I put my kids belly to sleep? No, I didn't. I did back to sleep because that's the safest guideline. Because just because I survived doesn't make all those risks disappear. So I'm going to minimize those risks to best protect my children because that's my job as a mom. And you have people in here saying she's the best mom on the planet. No, she's not. What? Why are you saying that? How can you possibly say that? Sure, you might have given your baby cereal in a bottle to help them sleep longer at night, which, side note, can we just agree that that's super selfish, or is it just me? Because if you can't sacrifice a little bit of sleep for your children and their, well-being, then you maybe shouldn't have kids. Just saying. For a parent to prioritize sleep over their baby's safety and potential, aspiration, okay. And it's not just that. She's an influencer. She can actually harm others doing this. And this whole I did it so you can do it too can harm others. And Drue doing this and saying, oh, my pediatrician said it was okay, which, yes, always consult your pediatrician before trying solids, before basically trying anything new with your infants. You should always consult a pediatrician. Some pediatricians aren't up on the latest research, and it's really important that we trust medical professionals, but we also have to keep in mind doing our own research and learning and growing from it. We can't just blindly take what one person says. So when people like Drue share these kind of blanket statements and this advice to their audience, people can misinterpret that as universal advice, as something that will work for everyone. And that's not the case, because again, it goes back to every baby is different. And these people taking this advice blindly might not realize the potential risks or dangers. And she's not saying, oh, but make sure to consult your pediatrician first. No, she's just saying, I said this and it's fine. And she's my baby, so I'm going to do what the fuck I want with her. Like, what? It's just, I don't understand how these people can continue to be so effing selfish. It blows my mind. It truly does. So while taking advice from a medical professional is really important, you need to make sure that that advice is backed up by the latest research, by the latest science-based evidence, and supported by it. Otherwise, they might just, not know. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they're up to date on the latest research. And that's concerning because these allergies or gut issues or health issues might not be present right away. It might be a long-term consequence. Even parents with younger kids, oh, my baby survived and they're 5. Yeah, sure, they might not have long-term problems yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to develop. And it doesn't mean it's going to develop either. But the risk is there, and the evidence is clear that there is a risk there. If you knew there was a predator at the park, would you send your kids to play? No. You wouldn't. Why? Because the risk is there. Who cares if it's a busy day? Who cares if it's bright and sunny? Who cares if there's other people there? There's a predator there. You're not going to send your kid there alone. And at the end of the day, we really need to start prioritizing evidence and science over ego, because it's just dangerous. And it gets to a certain point where it's like you need to swallow your pride and realize that you're not right, or you're not making the decision that's in the best interest of your child. And there's so many myths surrounding starting your kid early on solids. One is that they're going to sleep better, which isn't true. There's literally no evidence that supports this. And at the end of the day, do you really want to mess up your kid's gut health because you want a couple extra minutes of sleep, potentially seriously damage their health long term? I don't think so. And it can lead to illnesses and diarrhea and other things, which can in turn, for a tiny infant, really quickly lead to micronutrient deficiencies, making them thin, making them weak, making them unable to gain weight. It's all connected. So how do you know if your child is ready for solids? There's a couple physical signs. But again, the physical readiness signs aren't everything. Just because they're physically ready doesn't mean their gut or their kidneys are ready to handle solid foods. I want to caveat that. But some ways to know is your baby has the ability to sit up with minimal support. Sit up confidently in your lap, sit up with some pillows around them for a long period of time and be able to, I'd say, get in and out of sitting positions. But ultimately, if they can sit sturdy on their butts, they're probably okay. This makes sure that they have proper neck and head and chest control, which are crucial for swallowing safely. But again, it comes back to just because they can sit doesn't mean that their gut is ready, and we need to really pump the brakes sometimes.
Let's pump the brakes, okay?
I totally understand that as a first-time mom, it's super exciting to feed your kids solid for the first time, reaching those milestones, getting to the next milestone. It's all really exciting. I get that. Even me with my last kid, because there was such a big age gap and I had all this new knowledge about like baby-led weaning and stuff, I was really excited to start solids and get into those phases because it is fun and it is exciting. But it doesn't mean that we need to rush into it or that it's the best thing to rush into it. And if we are rushing into feeding them solids because we want to get to the next milestone, well, is that in the best interest of the child, or is that just a parent being kind of selfish and not making the best decisions? Babies also need to lose the tongue thrust reflex, which is a very prominent reflex, and it can go away anywhere between the 4 and 6 month mark. This makes sure that they can move food to the back of their mouth and be able to swallow instead of just like pushing it out, literally tongue thrusting it out of their mouth. Now, if you look at the picture that Drue posted, the baby has mango all over her mouth, which leads us to believe that she was probably spitting most of it out. Now, why was she enjoying it? Why did she do so well? Because it's mango. It's sweet. And babies are naturally drawn to sweeter things. We actually give sucrose as a form of pain control to babies when we're doing their blood work and stuff, because babies are naturally drawn to sweetness. So realistically, she was enjoying the sweetness and the taste of it versus actually enjoying eating or actually interested in eating. No, it just tasted good. Another sign to look for is an interest in food. If your baby watches you eat, if they reach for the food, or if they open their mouth when food is brought close to them, those are all signs that your baby's probably ready to start solids and interested in starting solids. That curiosity tells us that they're ready for new foods and new textures and stuff like that, and interested in actually trying them. The last thing to consider is, despite their regular feedings of breast milk or formula, if they are still restless and hungry, showing signs of hunger and cues, and they're right around that 6 month mark, then it's probably time to supplement a little bit more. But again, before this, it ends up replacing breast milk and formula at the 4 month mark, at the 5 month mark even. And they don't get the adequate nutrition and the balanced nutrition that they need, that they would be getting from breast milk or formula, because they're loading up on solids. And usually only one solid, let's be realistic, and not a lot of it, because babies' tummies are like this big, like they're small. They fill up fast. And again, at the end of the day, we need to remember that physical readiness and all these physical signs isn't everything. It's the basis of all of it. While I understand the excitement and the reaching new milestones and stuff, it's just wildly irresponsible. And the clapback at criticism or like any type of critique at all is really toxic. It's perpetuating harmful feeding standards that can potentially have long-term consequences on her baby, on other people who take her advice and follow it on their babies. I mean, it's no shock that she's doing it because, again, content. She needs content. Everything is content. It's nuts. And to risk your child's health for content is disgusting and selfish, in my opinion, I guess. I'm still keeping tabs on her because she is making terrible decisions, as we all knew she would. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'll get off my little soapbox now. But this one, when I saw that she was feeding her kids solids, in a sit-me-up, not even in a high chair. And then on top of that, she didn't even wait until the kid was actually 4 months of age. She literally gave, like, no, stop. I know you're excited. I know you want to do all the things, but you are risking your child's health. And you're not going to see the consequences of it right away. But guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope this video was a little helpful at the very least. I hope you ring in the new year safely. I don't know when this will be posted, so I don't even know if it's going to be New Year or whatever. Please don't forget to like and subscribe before leaving. It really helps boost these videos into the algorithm. It's a free way to help out the channel, and I really appreciate it at the end of the day. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.